Breaking from Gacha News TV, another Gacha game bites the dust. A Gacha game can have 1 million players, an active community, content creators pumping out videos every week, and then announce server closure 2 days after their own anniversary celebration. Not 2 months, not 2 weeks, 2 days. That is not even the dumbest thing on this list. Not even close. 6 games, 6 shutdowns. And by number 1, you are going to be staring at the screen asking yourself, did a real company actually make this decision? The gacha market is one of the most competitive spaces in all of gaming. Billions of dollars annually. Communities that would make AAA studios jealous. Real friendships, real memories, built inside these apps. These were not casual players. These were people who cared. A lot. Which makes what happened to the games on this list so infuriating, because none of it had to go the way it did. Every single time. Bad decision. Community devastated. Same pattern. And the wild part? The industry keeps repeating it. So let's talk about 6 games that died. Not from a bad market, not from bad luck. From decisions so avoidable it almost feels personal. Ranked from bad to absolutely unhinged. Starting at number 6. Number 6. Sword Art Online. Integral factor. And I want to be very specific about this one up front. The game worked. It was not broken. It was not plagued with bugs. It did not have a disastrous launch. The servers were running fine. The community was active. By every technical measure, this game was doing its job. So what was the dumb reason the global server shut down in January 2022? Licensing. The publisher, Bandai Namco, decided that the cost of maintaining the SAO IP license for international distribution, separate contracts, separate territories, separate fees, was not worth keeping the global English server alive alongside the JP1. The game itself had no problems. The players had no problems. There was no scandal, no controversy, no mass exodus. Everything was fine. And then a licensing spreadsheet somewhere decided it was not profitable enough to justify the paperwork. So they pulled the plug on the entire global player base. The JP server of Integral Factor is still running today. Same game, same content, different region on a contract form. That is the only difference between the players who still have their game and the players who lost theirs. This is number 6, the entry point of the list. Because at least the reason is clear and honest. They did not run a scam. They did not botch a strategy. They just made a cold business calculation and global players paid for it. That makes it the least dumb entry. But it is still pretty dumb. Number 5, Magia record. For anyone who does not know the source material, Puella Magi, Madoka Magica is one of the most critically acclaimed anime series of the last 15 years. Dark, subversive, beautifully animated. It has a massive and passionate global fan base. So when a spin-off game was announced, the hype was completely justified. Magia Record launched in Japan in 2017. It ran well. Good enough that they decided to bring it to the rest of the world. In 2019, they launched what they called the Global English Server. And here is the dumb reason. That Global English Server was available in exactly one country, the United States. Not North America, the United States specifically. Canada, blocked. United Kingdom, blocked. Australia, blocked. Germany, France, Brazil, every single country outside of the US. You got an error message. The global server served about 4% of the globe. Think about what this actually means. You have a game based on one of the most beloved anime in the world. People across Europe, Southeast Asia, Latin America, Canada. They are fans. They want to play. And the answer is, sorry, wrong country. Go find a VPN and hope it works. And what happened? The US-only player base was not big enough to sustain a live service game on its own. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. The community that should have been global was chopped down to a sliver, and that sliver could not generate enough revenue to keep the servers running. The global English server shut down in 2021. The JP server? Still running. The fan base they locked out? Still out there. Still fans of the source material. Still wanting a game. They just were not allowed to have one. There are a lot of ways a gacha game can fail. Bad monetization, bad content, bad timing. But this one failed because someone drew a circle around one country on a map and called it global. That is not a market problem. That is a geography problem. Number 4, Brave Frontier. And this one has layers, so stay with it. Brave Frontier launched in 2013. One of the early mobile JRPGs that proved the gacha genre could have genuine depth. Passionate community, active content, real staying power. For years, it worked. Then came the announcement. Brave Frontier 2 is coming, a sequel. A bigger, better version of the game people loved. And the moment that announcement dropped, the original's player base started bleeding. This is the sequel trap. And it is brutal and predictable every single time it happens. Players do not want to invest in a game they know is being replaced. Why pull on BF1 banners? Why build a guild? Why grind for gear in a game that is being discontinued? So they wait. And while they wait, the original starves. BF2 launched in 2017. Reviews were mixed. It was not the giant leap players were hoping for. And then, the original BF1? It quietly shut down in 2020. Done. Gone. But wait, it keeps going. BF2 struggled. Revenue declined. The community that was supposed to migrate over was smaller than expected. And in 2022, BF2 shut down too. 2 games, both dead. The sequel that drained the original could not even sustain itself. And here is the part where it gets almost philosophical. If BF2 had never been announced, BF1 might still be running today. Not as the biggest game, but running. Alive. With players who actually wanted to be there. The dumb reason? They cannibalized their own living product for a sequel that was not ready to replace it. That is not strategy. That is just killing one thing and hoping the other thing fills the gap. And the other thing did not. Number 3. Atelier Resleriana. And this is where the list stops being just sad and starts getting genuinely insulting. The Atelier series has decades of goodwill behind it. Beloved JRPG franchise, dedicated fanbase. Resleriana launched globally in January 2024 and the community showed up. January 25th, 2025. First global anniversary. Streamers went live. Players pulled on the anniversary banner. Fan art went up. The community had survived a full year and was celebrating. January 27th, 2025. End of service announcement for the global server. 48 hours after the anniversary party. 2 days. The cake was not even stale. Now. There is a business argument for why global shut down. The revenue split was brutal. Roughly 90% of Resleriana's income came from Japan. The global server was not generating enough to sustain itself. I am not going to pretend that is not a real problem. But here is the thing. Nobody is arguing that they had to keep it running forever. The question is, why did you run an anniversary event? Why let players spend money on an anniversary banner, which is always one of the biggest spending events of the year, and then drop the shutdown 2 days later? That anniversary was the last major event before closure. The company knew the shutdown was coming. That timeline does not happen by accident. You either announce the shutdown before the anniversary and give players the choice, or you cancel the anniversary because it is dishonest to run it. You do not do both. And while global players were processing the shutdown, the JP server got a full content dropped the exact same day the shutdown was announced. Chapter 22, Part 2. New content. Same date stamp as the global end of service notice. Same day. One server gets new story content. The other gets a countdown clock. That image right there is the whole story. Number 2. War of the Visions. Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. This is the game that opened this video. And the reason it is at number 2 instead of number 1 is not because what happened to it is any less awful. It is because what is at number 1 is in a completely different category of decision-making. WOTV launched globally in 2020. 5 years is a long time for a gacha game. Long enough that the community that built up around it was not casual. These were players with years of progress. Deeply leveled units. Completed story chapters. Guild memberships that had lasted longer than some jobs. Some relationships. And what was the dumb reason it died? Let me be precise here. The shutdown itself was not the dumb part. Revenue had declined. The business case for keeping global running had eroded. That happens. The dumb part was how it was handled. No offline mode. In 5 years. 5 years of development time. 5 years of server infrastructure. 5 years of knowing that every live service game eventually ends. No one built any kind of offline or archival mode. When the servers went dark on May 29th, 2025, 5 years of saved progress became inaccessible. Just gone dot. The community was not asking for miracles. The requests were practical. A way to view story content offline. A way to access your account history. Some form of archive so the 5 years you put in did not just disappear. These are things other games have done on shutdown. It is not impossible. The dumb reason is this. For 5 years, the implicit promise of a live service game is we will keep this going. Players invest on that basis. And when that promise ends, which it always eventually will, you owe it to the people who held up their end to at least let them hold on to what they built. They said no. Number 1. And before I even start, I want you to understand, this is not a story about one bad decision. This is a story about a company systematically dismantling one of the most beloved gacha games in history, step by step, for a sequel that lasted 3 months. Stay with me. Love Live. School Idol Festival, the original, launched in 2013. It ran for 10 years. 10 years. In a genre where most games die in 2, SIF was an institution. Active fan events, annual celebrations, fan art that has been produced continuously for a decade. A community that considered this game part of their life. Now Bushiroad made a decision. They would consolidate. Kill SIF. And actually they had already killed the Cephas spin-off too. So this was the second casualty. And funnel everyone into a brand new successor. SIF 2 Miracle Live. A fresh start. An upgrade. SIF 2 launched in Japan first. Then they brought it to global. The global launch date was February 2024. Microtransactions were active from day one. Players were spending money on the game that was supposed to be the future of the franchise. And on that same day, the global server launched, Bushiroad announced the global shutdown date. Let me say that again because I need you to understand this fully. The game launched globally, and the shutdown date was published the same day. Players who downloaded SIF 2 on global launch day were playing a game that already had an expiry date stamped on it. They just did not know it yet. SIF 2 global shutdown May 31st, 2024, 3 months after launch. They killed a 10-year-old game, a game that was still running, still played, still loved, and replaced it with something that did not survive a single quarter. The JP server of SIF 2 continued for a while longer. But globally, the result of this entire plan was SIF is dead, Cephas is dead, and SIF 2 Global is dead within 3 months. The company eliminated its entire legacy product catalog, one by one, for a replacement that could not outlast a season. So what is the dumb reason? The dumb reason is that someone in a room decided that a functioning, beloved, profitable enough 10-year game was a liability rather than an asset. That the right move was to burn it down and hope the new thing was better. And it was not better. It was not even close. SIF 2 did not gain a future for this franchise. It destroyed a decade of goodwill for a game that could not outlast a contract phone plan. That is number one. And it is not even close. Now, look, there are smart people in this conversation. Analysts and developers who will say, live service economics are genuinely brutal. You are not seeing the full picture. And they are not entirely wrong. Server costs are real. Content pipelines are expensive. When revenue drops below a threshold, the math on keeping a game alive genuinely does not work. That is not an excuse. It is a fact of the industry, and the people making those calls are not always villains. But here is the line that gets crossed. Every time, on every game on this list, the question was never whether to shut it down. The question was how. 2 days after the anniversary, launching and announcing shutdown the same day. No offline mode after 5 years. These are not hard economics. These are choices about how much you respect the people who kept your game alive. This is not a hate video. This is not gacha games deserve to die. If anything, this is a love video. Because these communities built something real inside these games. Real friendships, real memories, real grief when they ended. And that is exactly what makes the way these shutdowns were handled so hard to sit with. The companies that understand what they are actually holding. A community, not just a product. Those are the ones still running. The ones on this list did not figure that out in time. So, which of these hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. And if there is a game that belongs on this list that was not here, tell me. Because there is absolutely enough material for a part 2. Like if this got you, subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in the next one.